Visible value, how representation transforms self worth. When was the last time you looked in the mirror and truly saw yourself? Not the flaws society told you to fixate on, but the full, magnificent human being staring back at you. I ask this question because for millions of people, especially extremely dark skinned and plus size Black women, that mirror often reflects back not just their image, but the weight of a world that has repeatedly told them they are somehow less. Recently, I had the extraordinary privilege of interviewing Antoinette Onyx Bryce, a visionary whose work at the intersection of visibility, representation, and self worth has fundamentally transformed how we understand human value. Antoinette isn't just a thought leader. She's a truth teller whose unflinching honesty about navigating a world that often refuses to see the brilliance of dark skinned, plus size Black women has created ripples of change across industries, communities, and individual lives. What makes Antoinette's perspective so revolutionary is her ability to articulate a truth many of us know but rarely discuss with such clarity. For countless women, the journey to self worth begins by unlearning what others have taught them about their value. The first voice that tells you you're not enough, she told me, her eyes holding mine with gentle intensity, is rarely your own. Let that sink in for a moment. The first voice that tells you you're not enough is rarely your own. This isn't abstract philosophy or feel good platitudes. It's the lived reality for millions of women who wake up each day in bodies that mainstream culture has deemed less worthy of respect, opportunity, and even basic visibility. When Antoinette spoke about the messages extremely dark skinned and plus size Black women receive, often beginning in childhood and sometimes from their own families, I couldn't help but think about the psychological weight of constantly being told, explicitly or implicitly, that you must somehow compensate for simply existing in your body. Imagine growing up hearing that your very existence requires justification. Now imagine the revolutionary act of deciding that narrative is a lie. Because here's what Antoinette helped me understand with such crystalline clarity: your worth has never been defined by others' perceptions, not for a single second of your life. The opinions formed about you based on your skin tone or body size reflect nothing about your value and everything about the limitations of a society still struggling to recognize the full spectrum of human beauty and brilliance. But awareness alone doesn't heal wounds that have been inflicted over generations. This is where representation and community become not just important, but essential. In 2013, a group of determined women in the Southeast United States looked at a venture capital landscape where only 2% of funding went to women founders and even less to women of color, and decided that statistic wasn't just unfortunate, it was unacceptable. They created the Jump Fund, the first gender lens angel fund in their region. When they approached traditional investors with their vision, they were met with skepticism. Why women? Why now? People asked, as if investing in half the population was some niche experiment rather than sound business strategy. I find this question darkly humorous, don't you? Why women? Why now? As if women are some emerging market that just appeared on the radar rather than, half of humanity since the dawn of time. But these women persisted. Since its inception, the Jump Fund has catalyzed innovation among female led startups while demonstrating that investing in underrepresented groups drives both impact and returns. Their portfolio companies have raised significant follow on funding, and their model has inspired similar funds nationwide. What makes this story particularly relevant to Antoinette's insights is how it illustrates the power of creating spaces where your identity isn't just tolerated, but celebrated. The Jump Fund didn't just provide capital, it created a community where women entrepreneurs could see themselves reflected in the people making investment decisions. This matters profoundly. When you've spent years, perhaps decades, absorbing messages that you don't belong in certain spaces, finding communities that affirm your right to exist exactly as you are becomes a form of healing. As Antoinette eloquently put it during our interview, finding your people isn't just about comfort, it's about recalibrating your sense of what's possible. The Colorado Bioscience Association offers another powerful example through their Advanced Industries Accelerator Grant Program. This initiative provides non dilutive grants specifically designed for innovation focused startups led by diverse founders, including Black women entrepreneurs. Since its inception, this program has awarded over $150 million, created more than 5,000 new jobs, and launched over 120 new companies. These aren't just statistics, they represent real people whose visions might never have materialized without intentional support. For Black professionals in STEM fields, particularly extremely dark skinned plus size women, these grants offer something beyond mere funding. They provide legitimacy and institutional backing in spaces where implicit and explicit bias often create nearly insurmountable barriers to entry. What's particularly striking about this program is how it demonstrates that empowerment through visibility and achievement isn't just about individual success. It's about creating cascading effects that benefit entire communities. When marginalized innovators receive the support they need to thrive, they don't just succeed individually, they create new possibilities for everyone who shares their identity markers. Each visible success story helps redefine what achievement looks like, expanding the imagination of what's possible for the next generation. Even our public libraries are becoming powerful sites of representation. Institutions like the Craighead County Jonesboro Public Library actively curate book lists, spotlighting authors from diverse backgrounds, including extremely dark skinned, plus size Black authors, and host events amplifying these voices throughout the year. By intentionally recommending works by underrepresented voices across genres, these libraries foster belonging among patrons who might otherwise feel invisible. Events such as the author readings provide safe spaces where community members gather around shared experiences, reducing the isolation caused by internalized stigma tied to skin tone or body size. These sustained programming efforts have increased library engagement while inspiring local youth and women toward creative careers they might once have thought unattainable due solely to appearance or background. What all these examples share is a recognition that representation isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. When you can see yourself reflected in positions of achievement, leadership, and creative expression, you gain access to a kind of permission that shouldn't be necessary, but often is permission to believe in your own potential. As Maya Angelou wisely observed, you can't be what you can't see. While this isn't literally true, trailblazers exist precisely because they ventured where no one like them had gone before. It speaks to the tremendous psychological burden of having to constantly imagine yourself into spaces where no one resembles you. That burden takes a toll. It creates what psychologists call belonging uncertainty, a persistent, nagging question about whether you truly have a right to occupy certain spaces. This uncertainty doesn't just feel bad, it actively interferes with performance, creativity, and well being. But here's where Antoinette's wisdom offers a path forward. Breaking cycles of low self worth starts with embracing visibility in professional, creative, or entrepreneurial spaces, even when it feels uncomfortable at first. The discomfort You feel stepping into spaces not designed for you, she told me, is not evidence that you don't belong there. It's the growing pain of expanding what belonging looks like for everyone who comes after you. This perspective transforms the act of simply showing up as your authentic self from a personal choice into a revolutionary act with the ripple effects far beyond your individual experience. When an extremely dark skinned, plus size Black woman claims her space in a boardroom, on a stage, in a laboratory, or on the pages of a book, she isn't just advancing her own career. She's physically embodying possibility for countless others who share her identity markers. This is why the work of organizations like the Jump Fund, the Colorado Bioscience Association, and forward thinking public libraries matters so profoundly. They're not just supporting individual success stories, they're helping to create new visual vocabularies for what leadership, innovation, and creativity look like. But institutional support, while crucial, is only part of the equation. As individuals, we all have the power, and I would argue the responsibility to uplift those whose presence is too often overlooked. So, here's my challenge to you today: identify one woman in your life whose brilliance is consistently overlooked. It might be a colleague whose ideas get attributed to others in meetings. It might be a friend whose creative work deserves wider recognition. It might even be yourself. Then take one concrete action to amplify her visibility. Share her work publicly, cite her contributions in a meeting, nominate her for an opportunity she deserves. Because here's the truth that Antoinette's work has illuminated so powerfully. When we make space for those who have been systematically rendered invisible, we don't just change individual lives, we begin to dismantle the very systems that determined whose humanity was fully recognized in the first place. Your recognition won't determine anyone's inherent worth. The worth has always existed, complete and undiminished, regardless of external validation. But your recognition can help create spaces where people don't have to constantly fight to be seen. And in a world that has spent centuries telling certain bodies they must justify their existence, that recognition becomes not just kind, but revolutionary. So I leave you with this final thought from my conversation with Antoinette. The world doesn't just need your contributions despite who you are. It needs them precisely because of who you are, with all your unique perspectives and experiences. Your visibility matters. Your voice matters. Your presence matters. Not because someone else says so, but because it always has and always will. Now go forth and take up space. The world is waiting for exactly who you are